All right, Mr. C. Very busy, productive time, really, for the whole last 2 months. Unfortunately, the fibromyalgia is way up there in levels, probably related to the efforts of doing all the writing and the videoing. Um, I do a walk every morning, but my shoulders and back and knees and hip and ankles and everywhere, neck. But I want to answer your question about Wheaton College. And yeah, as I searched through my book, I didn't write a lot, a line or two here or there. It's a very painful time, hence the name that you coined, Auschwitz. Uh, but before I can really talk about Auschwitz, I have to examine Crusade, which basically set me up for it. And I was on a cult summer missionary in the summer of 1980, and was working full time painting houses and doing all the cult activities at night. And on that summer project, suddenly this heavy set, short, balding guy showed up. His name was Brian Laurie. And what he said to me was basically what I'd been getting from the cult. You know, you can go into full time Christian work, all real Christians do. And that was the first time I ever heard the mention of Wheaton, which he'd spent a year, maybe two at. And he said what an exciting place it was. He said there's free thinking, theological debates, there's every stripe and color of Christian there. And that was the first great lie, maybe one of the greatest lies that was ever told to me in my life. Very, very extremely narrow. I've been studying for my friends who are coming over tonight, their literature. And 27 wives, Joseph Smith, including other people's wives, including underage girls. So they don't get that very much. And Brigham Young had 25 wives. And these guys, especially Joseph Smith, would got some from an orphanage, got some from virtually stealing them from her husbands. That's the reason he was killed. He's not a martyr. He's a pedophile. So, but as that relates to Wheaton is this: they have extremely structured rules of behavior. No smoking, no drinking, no swearing, no R-rated movies, and there is some question about caffeine. And I think I was actually dodged. Elder Cuevas kind of dodged that, was saying he had no problems with soda, but I just read online that that's one of the rules, and that theology is just satanic, very, very whacked. So I compare the two groups, and I continue to study Mormonism to understand how I could be indoctrinated into a group at age 18 and then eventually end up at Wheaton College, the Harvard of the evangelicals. Time magazine called it in 1980, 1981, 81, 82. So the biggest thing were the rules. Rules. Grammy Annie came to visit me once, and she was walking across campus, smoking a cigarette, obviously, and a young girl ran up to her and said, could she have a cigarette? It's been so long since she's been able to smoke. And so those kind of things, I think the biggest concern of, people were at Wheaton, or whether you were chewing tobacco. They used to send people out into bars. And there's not too many football players who don't enjoy their beer, and they would try to bust these students, even though they were of legal age. As you remember, the drinking age used to be 18 or 21, it doesn't really matter. They were of legal age, and they'd just go scouring these bars for this demonic, terrible behavior that they exhibited. And on and on and on. There's no visitation between girls and boys, female, male. In fact, I was showing a slideshow. In order to show the slideshow, I had to shut the door on one evening that was a special visitational evening. And we were late. I don't know, probably ended at 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, and I was just showing these slides to this person, and our RA from close by in the dorm came in and was all flabbergasted. The lights were off, it was past curfew hour, and my God, you're showing slides. So these kind of leaning on legalistic behaviors is what Wheaton College majored in. They have a pledge that you were forced to contractually sign that had a list of 100 things that you could do and couldn't do. At Wheaton, there was chapel 4 times a week. We got Wednesday off. Just a horrific overdose. Then I went to church service on Sunday. Then I went to church discipleship or Bible study group. And then I was taking Old Testament survey and New Testament survey and Christian philosophy. So why was I so incapable of losing total center of myself? Well, that's what brainwashing does. You think of the Islamic jihadists and how they totally take over their minds and brainwash them. You think of these guys, how they believe the most whacked theology that could ever be made up. And I was susceptible in that way because of the end of my freshman year when the Crusaders came back after I had my meltdown, and they just went straight into indoctrination. There wasn't ever a single talk of mental health. In fact, at Wheaton, if you were mentally impaired, brain chemistry problem, your right brain wasn't working with your left brain, whatever you want to talk about it was most likely a moral problem because, of course, the prosperity teaches that God will give you health and wealth. Well, I had neither. I did have the support of my parents. I was ridiculed on several different levels. One class I was having such severe Christian philosophy. I was having such severe panic attacks that I'd barely be able to get in and put my notebook down on the desk, and then I'd just leave, and go to the bathroom, walk around. And eventually this particular professor, and I could relearn his name, I could care less about him now, but unfortunately he labeled me as one of those off seniors, bad seniors, senioritis, and it couldn't have been farther from the truth. Yeah, that hurt pretty badly to be mocked for having an anxiety disorder. I guess the class got a good kick out of it, and but to be openly discussed in the classroom. Other episodes, I went to College Church, which was kind of the cool place right near campus, and met the Sunday school teacher, and went to one of his Bible studies one night and said I was dealing with depression. And his reaction was to crack a one-liner. And fortunately, I've forgotten whatever asshole comment he made, but it didn't help the. Everybody got a chuckle, but sure didn't help the depression and the anxiety. Hudson T. Armerding was the president of the university, and faculty members, one that I talked to, claimed that he treated everyone like children, like he was this great Joseph Smith figure himself, and no matter what, he was right. And if you were 2 seconds late for an appointment, he would chew you out on the gospel principles of punctuality. And he was just kind of out of it, hanging in there for his last year or two. I think the people who did best there, all right, well, we'll go another minute, then I'll switch over. I think the people who did best there were the ones with a long-standing relationship with evangelicalism and long-standing parental teaching in church. You know, they're the ones that saw their dog kick the husband come home and kick the dog, and the wife bicker and realize that you have Christianity because you're not perfect, because of your own imperfections, and not because of a guidebook that's going to cut you off from God if you engage